Welcome to NoSo Countdown, War Games Edition. I'm here with my buddy Dave Hall. Dave, what's going on, buddy?
Hey guys, it's good to be here. It's good to bring you a bit of the down under feel to this War Games series. So I think it's going to be fun and exciting.
Absolutely. So, Dave, we are here to review the ninth ranked War Games here, and that is from the Great American Bash Tour in 1987. This match is on July 31st, 1987. So, this is the last. Was this the last leg of the Great American Bash Tour? And is this the last War Games from that era? Well, from this tour, excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the last card of the Great American Bash Tour. I don't have those stats in front of me, but I certainly know that it was they only did the two War Games matches on that 87 tour, and
Mm-hmm.
this was the second of the two. They didn't do any more in 87, and that I think that was quite good because I've seen an interview. Dusty does an interview on the War Games DVD if anyone's watched it, and it's he talks about the fact that they wanted to keep it as a special event. They didn't want it to be. They didn't want to oversaturate it and overuse it and keep it special. So yeah, it's definitely only the second one that they did, and it was the last War Games for the '87 tour.
Awesome. And this is from the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida. So they're in a big football stadium, Dave. You got any of those
It
down under?
we've got some big football stadiums. They did they when WWE like to tour down here, they like to hit the football stadiums these days. They had the opportunity to be at the Super Show down under a few years ago, and that was in our big massive stadium. And so yeah, look, and you could see it was the outdoors and the big outdoor venues. And I know that I think this would have been awkward to see in an event like an arena like that, because the way the cage is made with the regular mesh and all that, it's low on the ring, so they don't have a lot of
Mhm.
height, would have made it very difficult for people up in the stands, especially further back, to really have a good view of what was happening in the ring. So I hope they had I don't know. I mean, 87 is not an era known for having a video feed live at events. So I think anyone who was far away would have found it very difficult to make out what was happening in this match.
Yeah. It was even kind of shot really weird too, where a lot of it had that it was like shot like a house show pretty much. So it was
Mm.
shot with like a two camera system. I assume one at the ringside and then a big hard camera
Yeah, yeah, the
very
hard the
far
hard
away.
camera and the ringside, and no one, and obviously no one in the ring. And back
Yeah.
then it would have been a safety thing. They wouldn't have thought to do that back then. But it was certainly that one camera roving around, and then the other hard camera just further back was the way they seemed to have shot this one.
So I think that hurt the viewing for us. But anyways, the competitors in this match, the Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff, Dusty Rhodes, and Paul Ellering versus the Four Horsemen that consist of Ric Flair, Art Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Lex Luger, and War Machine, filling in for J.J. Dillon, who was hurt in the first War Games, as we'll get to later on in this list.
That's right. And War Machine, for those of you who may not be aware, War Machine is the artist better known as at the time Big Bubba Rogers, and ended up becoming the Big Boss Man. And
Oh, wow.
with the hindsight, with the experience hindsight, historically, you can look back and you can work out that it's Boss Man. But yeah, he did a pretty good job, I felt, of trying to hide his, you know, who he was, like trying not to wrestle the way he normally did. And I think it sort of shows a lot of faith. I mean, Dusty's the booker at the time. And it's well known Dusty was very high on Ray Traylor on the Boss Man and at the time, and it shows a lot of trust and a lot of faith to put him into this position when JJ got hurt in the first one and couldn't be used here. They got to look around. I mean, they could have thrown anyone in there. There's a bunch of heels they could have put in the match. A Bobby Eaton, a Stan Lane, guys that are known heel workers. But they put Bubba under a mask, put him in the ring, and that's a lot of faith to put him in with I mean, it is the main event. These are the top guys in the company at the time, the top 8 guys in the company in 1987, and they put him in there with them, and he held up his own, and they put him in there for a long time too. He did worked a lot of the match.
Yeah, for sure. And he looked good. He looked good for sure.
Mm.
All right. And so let's present the match here. So we set the table. Now let's present the rankings and the ratings on why we think this is the ninth war game. All right. Cage Match gave this a 7.67 out of 10. Meltzer, a hard 5 stars. Chad Campbell, our buddy
Wow.
over here on the NoSo, 4.25. And JT and Chad's tier list, when they tiered all the WCW and NWA War Games matches, gave this 8th out of 13. So that's what kind of helped sink or mid this War Games on the list.
I'd be interested to know if Meltzer actually attended this event live and saw it, or if he got feedback from other people. Because as we'll get into a little bit later on, I think it's interesting. He gave this 5 stars. I'm
Feels
not
like a
sure.
yeah.
I'm not sure this is a 5-star match. And I'm sure, in hindsight, when if Meltzer has seen this on footage on DVD or whatever, I'm sure he would be sitting there going, he wouldn't have it as 5 stars now. So I just found that's an interesting take. It makes me think that he wasn't there personally.
Yeah, I know Massachusetts. Over here is Northern California, and all the way over here is Florida, Miami, Florida. So it's quite far away there, Dave, just to give
Mm,
you a little geography
yeah.
lesson. All right, Dave, would you care to give us a quick rundown of what's going on in the NWA in 1987 that kind of drove us to this War Games match?
Well, I think you've really got a tie-in of 2, 3 major storylines that bring about this war games. Obviously, at the top of the cards, the Four Horsemen were dominating the company. Ric Flair's the world champion. Lex Luger had just won the United States title during this Great American Bash tour, taking it from Nikita Koloff, and Dusty had been the perennial, number one contender, battling Flair over the past 12 months. He had a title run in '86 and in the Bash Tour, and is always in that top challenger role. So they're sort of been the top 2 guys, and Koloff and Luger have been battling over the US title. And then, Tully and Arn had just sort of moved. They were starting to work more as a tag team at this point, and were starting to get themselves in line to go against the Rock and Roll Express for the tag titles. And the Road Warriors are the Road Warriors, the top tag team in the business at the time. So really, this was bringing together the top draws in the company into one match, and it was the follow on from the first War Games, which will get covered in a later slot. But it's they did the first one and it was received really well, and this was sort of the rematch, the return encounter. And as we mentioned, they included the managers. Paul Ellering was involved. JJ Dillon was involved in the first one. He got hurt.
Good
He
injury.
dislocated his shoulder. Legitimately got hurt during the
Oh yeah,
match, and so as a result, as I mentioned before, they had to bring in a replacement, and that's the War Machine. So really, this is just the top guys in the business, in the company at the time, coming together. They've been battling around arenas in various forms of singles, tags, 6-mans, and this was just, let's get everyone together in a big battle, and almost like we're going to settle this once and for all. And Nikita and Dusty tied in together as well with the Superpowers role at Crockett Cup and how they came together at the Crockett Cup. So yeah, really sort of got all these little mixed storylines all coming together for one major match.
awesome. And what we have here is a picture of Dusty and Arn, the first two competitors in the War Games. I'm pretty sure this is very early on in the match where Dusty
Mm.
kind of just gets the better of Arn. And like you said, or as like we'll get into here, Dave, this match wasn't your stereotypical War Games. It was kind of a little frantic. It was probably like 16 minutes tops, and that's including getting the guys in every 2 minutes or so.
Mm.
But these guys start off here, and they start off hard. Dusty grinds them. Arn does the tip. Arn typically starts every War Games, pretty much, right? It
Yeah,
feels
look,
like so.
if you've listened to Arn Anderson's podcast, he's talked about that. He basically said that was his role. He takes pride in the fact that pretty well every War
Absolutely,
Games he was in, he was the first man. And he
absolutely.
did, and it's because Arn can Arn's got the ability to go long, to be in the ring a long time, to make guys look good as they come in. And at the same time, he's got enough rough and tumble about him to be able to sort of battle back and be a challenge for whoever's in there with him. So it's a good. I think he's a good guy. And Dusty, look, Dusty, I think with the group that they got that he's working with Nikita and Hawk and Animal, Dusty is really, in the end, he's the best worker of that group. So
And
really sort of need to probably work that match himself a fair bit. So can see why they started off in the ring. And look, the first 5 minutes, their battle, they actually had a really good little 5-minute duel,
they set the table great.
battling off each other, working some limbs and working the legs a little bit. But it didn't take, it did not take long. Like Arn, like you can see in that photo, Arn's already bleeding. Like Arn was busted open within a minute. Dusty ran him into the cage within a minute and busted him open. And it's very interesting to see how quickly they got the blood going. There's some really good.
Away.
They did, but they don't leave it there. Like there's a good spot. Like Dusty locks on a figure 4, and just keeps it clamped on, and you can hear like the camera gets right up on the thing, and the sound was good enough. You could actually hear Arn saying like, "I quit, I give up," and the commentators highlighting it. He can't. It doesn't. The match doesn't end until everyone's in the ring, and Dusty can keep it on as long as he wants.
Which is really cool for Arn to be that chicken shit, knowing that the rule, trying to get out of the situation that he's in, knowing the rules that the match don't start until all the competitors are in. But up here next, speaking of up next, is War Machine is in here third as the heels won the coin toss, believe it or not, Dave.
Oh, I'm shocked. The heels, it's how lucky are they? I mean, they won. How many times did the Horsemen win the coin toss? They're so lucky. Flair, Arn, they must be the luckiest group around.
Here in America, we have double-sided head coins, so they must
have two-headed coin. That's probably exactly what it was. That's probably what it was. And what I love, like War Machine comes in, and look, almost instantly, Dusty goes into the ring, into the cage, and he's busted open. So now, both Dusty and Arn, blood flowing. It didn't take long, and I think if War Machine didn't have the mask on, they would have probably busted him open as well.
For sure. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe it's Hawk that is next for the baby faces.
Yep. Hawk comes in next. He's on fire. Typical Hawk. No sells things. Runs guys. Runs both Arn and War Machine over with some clotheslines and press slams, and it's Hawk being Hawk, and he does it well. He's a very good
great
guy on fire. Yeah, no, great he's good, and that's really what it is for just a couple of minutes. Hawk just being Hawk, no selling shots and looking strong.
Yeah, and then we get Flair.
Yep, Flair immediately. What I like, he comes in and he immediately isolates Hawk. He sort of takes Hawk across and away from everyone, and really starts working over him. And but then almost straight away, Hawk, Flair gets beaten up on. Like it turns the table, and he spends most of the 2 minutes when they've got this advantage, this numbers advantage. He spends most of the 2 minutes being beaten up. So it was a good element to the story, because you got this idea that when you got 3-on-2, you should be dominating, yeah. But the Horsemen turned it around, and they actually took the beating this time around. Like they couldn't gain the advantage, but it didn't take long. Flair goes into the cage. He gets busted open. And the other thing Hawk does is you see sort of there's actually a really interesting spot. Flair goes headfirst into the cage, and Hawk basically races over to Flair where he lands on the ground, sort of over the top of him. Is like he's going to beat him up, but doesn't do much. And you can actually see that what he's doing, you can see that it's allowing Flair to get little things out of his tights and maybe come out of the situation with blood flowing. But I just thought it was clever of Hawk to sort of hide that from the audience and not allow it.
Advantage, or for the heels, of course, but is it for the baby faces? Nikita enters the ring.
Yep, Nikita's in. He sells pile drivers. Again, it's a very sort of that the warrior road warriors and Nikita have a very similar approach. They come in and when they're on fire, they just no sell stuff. So Nikita gets hit with a pile driver, stands straight up, just the same way. He's getting chopped and hulking, and nothing's hurting him, and everyone, it didn't take long. Nikita goes into the cage as well, and he's busted open. And he's busted open. And what I've noticed is every single segment here, someone's going into the cage, and the bleeding comes up straight away. Like they're not giving any room for the crowd to get a breather here. They're getting the cuts, they're getting the blood. They're just trying to keep that sort of that wow factor going every moment they can.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe that Tully is fourth out of fifth in here. It's like, Tully, one of your best workers on this team. You want to get in the ring, but then you look at this team, this Horseman team is absolutely stacked, and it's just like, yeah, I guess so. Maybe, probably, whatever. Like maybe Tully was the least or the most hungover, so that's why he went in fourth opposed to
Maybe
earlier on.
I was actually surprised he came in after Flair. I thought Flair would
Yeah,
have, the
absolutely.
idea that Flair being the champion wants to sort of protect his body, not that he
Yep.
can't work it, but yeah. But like you said, Tully sort of holds off a little bit. Maybe they were doing rock paper scissors in the back to see which order, because between Arn, Tully, and Flair, all three of them could have started. All
Yeah.
three of them could go the whole length, so they can work it. But Tully comes in. He's quite creative. He's grabbing the top of the cage and trying to kick guys off, and he's trying to use the cage to give him some momentum in some of the moves and the shots he's putting on guys, which it's quite a unique use of the low lying cage, and something that none of the other guys had done in the match. So Tully brings a different element when he hits the ring, and that's really good to see.
Yeah, I love the energy he brought. You know, it was like a sneaky little smart attack he brought to the table here. And then we get the last road warrior here with Animal coming in, and he just comes in like a bat out of hell.
Yep, he's in. He's he's just destroying people left and right. He sends Tully into the cage. Tully's busted open. Like I said, everyone's getting busted
You
open
get
left
a
and
corner here,
right.
Dave.
And then almost straight after it, Arn sends Animal into the cage, and he's busted open. So, um, but yeah, no, Animal's just Animal. Well, I love the Road Warriors coming in on fire. They look great.
Hmm. And I love that they saved Luger for last, and they made it feel like a big deal as JJ was pumping him
Mm.
up, giving him instructions. And I love the shine that they put on Luger here as he entered last for the heel team.
Yeah, no, it was a good thought. I mean, obviously protecting him a little bit with his experience, but
Mhm.
as I said, he'd only just won the US title, so
Yes,
you've got this idea that Luger's just sort of getting this big shine, and people, yeah, the highlights that he's the strength of the team. In comes this power guy. They've almost saved him to the end. They've let the workers work over people, and now they're going to send in their power guy after, Hawk and Animal and Nikita have come into the ring to sort of, now we're going to take that opportunity to get some strength and dominance, which Luger really, he looked good. He looked good.
of course. And then Spike bracelet and all, Paul Ellering's last here to officially start the war sprint of a match here as we close down the show. And woof, they wasted no time to get to this finish, Dave, huh?
No, they didn't. Like Ellering comes in and he's wearing, like, where the Road Warriors have got the shoulder spikes. Ellering comes in wearing a wristband with the same sort of spike,
Mhm.
gets in the ring and immediately takes it off and tosses it to Animal. So they're setting that up straight away. And Ellering gets into a little bit of a back and forth with Flair. Actually, he and Flair start battling, but
He
while that's
physically looked
happening,
pretty good.
he does. Oh, he always had a good
Yeah.
physique. I think from what I've heard, it really was. I think he struggled with some, his neck or his back or whatever. Like he had sort of, because he was a worker before he became a manager, and he only
Yeah.
moved to managing because of a physical issue that he couldn't take the ongoing bumps. So, but he sort of comes in the ring, and then you sort of get Hawk and Animal and Dusty isolate the War Machine. And this is where the camera angles become a bit of an issue, because the
Yeah.
hard camera comes and focuses in on it, and the outside camera locks in on it. So you've got three guys beating on War Machine, and I'm wondering, Well, that leaves two guys, Paul Ellering and Nikita, fighting four horsemen. What's happening there? How we can't see what role is going. Is someone caught in the ropes? Are they, how are they managing these two guys to keep the other four away from making a save? But yeah, Animal takes the spike that he's been going. He starts ramming it into the mask, the eye spot on the mask of the War Machine, and War Machine starts screaming out in agony, and it's a really good look. They've got the camera in a way that you can't quite tell that it's, you know, you can't see it getting right on the eye, but it really gives you the impression that he's got it there. And yeah, it's almost, within a minute or so, bang, the bell rings, the match is over. It's all done. Victory to the Superpowers and the Road Warriors.
Yeah, I thought it was like, because now you get with these NXT ones, you get a marathon, you get like a real match after this. I kind of liked how
Mm.
they killed each other. They were in literal war for the 20 minutes or the 15 minutes of intervals leading up to this. And man, they had them. Let's just go for it and let's end this and win this War Games match and kind of just set our bar on these feuds.
Yeah, and it was a guy who was in the ring like second longest. War Machine
Yes.
was the first man to enter the ring after the initial period. So it wasn't like they were taking it on Luger, who'd only just come in. They isolated the guy who was bigger and probably worn down from being in there 15 minutes, and that's who they were able to get the quick win on. I think that was part of the good part of the story is they didn't make it look like here's a guy who's just been only gotten in the ring, should be all fired up and not hurt, and now he's giving up. No, it was the guy who's worn down, been beaten on for 10, 15 minutes, and then they've isolated him, and three guys working on him for a minute to bring about this end, and using a weapon to do it too adds to the, of course he's going to give up quick. He's getting a spike driven into him, and it must have given Dusty an idea for 12 months later, using spikes in eyes.
Well, that's gonna get him canned, buddy. But no spoilers. All right, so the build, you did a great job presenting the match. You did a great job reviewing it. Did it live up to the hype? And do you agree with the 9th overall rating out of 23 War Games here? What's your kind
Well,
of sentiment on that with everything we just talked about?
look, I think looking back on it, I can see why at the time it was well received. It tells a good story. You've got all the top guys in the company. They're in there. They're all bleeding. They're all making it look vicious and brutal, which it came across in that way with everyone. With the blood, it makes it look like that this is a vicious match. Unfortunately, I feel that between the first 5-minute period and the final minutes where they leading to the result, all it felt like in the middle there was just ramming guys into cage and letting them get busted open. And I feel in hindsight it doesn't quite live up to some of the
Yeah.
the greatness that it's seen. Like I said, I don't understand how this got 5 stars from Meltzer. I don't. I think I think JT and Chad's ranking where it's sort of coming in about 8th out of 13 or whatever you said, that feels a bit more. Yeah, I can. You can see it's not bad, but it's not one of the greatest ones. I think 9 is a pretty good showing. The difference between this one and the NXT ones we've seen over the last couple of rankings have been that the NXT, there's a lot of spot fest and
Mhm.
not a story. This has got a story. This has got a good story built into it, but that they're telling the story throughout. As I said, isolating particular guys. The new guy comes in, his strength helps them get a bit, regain some control. But in the end, they had to isolate someone and work him with a weapon. I think that's a good story. It's not a spot fest per se, and each guy brought in something unique to the match. It wasn't everyone just doing the same thing.
Yes, I went with a good old hard 4-star rating. I thought it was great. I just thought that it was closer to 3 3/4 than to 4 1/4, where you get into that legendary 4 1/4 tier where you start thinking, wow, this is,
Mm,
astronomically great. But I think 4 stars, it was a great War Games match. It was a great physicality. It was brutal and it told a really good story, like you said. And I'm not mad at the of the 80 seconds of actual War Games match we got here, because the build was so compelling and frantic and violent leading up to it. It's kind of where I'm at. Do you want to give it a star rating?
Yeah, look, I tend to use, I tend, being the Australian, I've used, some people will have heard, I like to use the boomerangs, because I see boomerang is something you want to return back to. You want it to come back. You want to have another look at it. And I look, yeah, between 3 and 4 boomerangs, I think, out of 5. I think it's a match, like, I definitely would encourage everyone to watch it if you haven't, but it's not a match that there are other War Games matches I would want to see before I saw this again.
Yep. So whatever Jabroni made the rankings, I feel like he did a good job of putting it right here, kind of right smack in the middle, starting
Yep,
towards the upper tier.
that's it. Absolutely.
All right, Dave. Well, we can hear you on Chronoso. We just saw you on the Chronoso Rumble a week or so ago. We can hear you on the Place to Be feed. If you could plug one show, what would it be, buddy?
Well, I've only got 2 shows, so Chronoso Fortnightly. We need to name it Chronoso Fortnight, but Chronoso, check it out. And my other show is Through the Looking Glass with Scott Criscola, a bit of a what if show. So come along, check that out. We drop once a month, so yeah, come and have a listen.
Cool, Dave. As always, thank you, and I'll see you on the next one, pal.
Absolutely.